Well, after a frigid, freezing loss last week, DC United traveled to the warmer weather of Toronto, seeking to get back on track and fall a little bit short. I'm Joshua Morgan. This is Sam Kazner, and you're listening to Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken. Sam, not what we were looking for in what could have been a bounce back week for DC United.
Yeah, I think falling a little short is a little bit generous for how we played today.
It's a 2-1 loss, but yeah, we'll get into.
We did not have a great second half. I thought our first half was a lot better. But yeah, disappointing. I think at least a point would have been what we wanted to get out of Toronto. Obviously, a road loss is not the end of the world, especially this early into the season. But not a whole lot of positives I'm taking from this game, I'll say.
It could have been something for DC United, but it didn't. Look, and the first 10 minutes were outstanding.
Yeah, they definitely were. They were a lot of fun to watch. Obviously, we get that really early goal. I don't know. And then it kind of falls from there. Obviously, we get scored on twice more. And again, I thought the second half was not that strong. I'll be interested to hear what Coach Hernan Losada has to say. We'll be bringing you the post-game press conference here pretty soon whenever they get started. I'll also be interested to see which players come in and also talk about this loss in Toronto. You know, I think that's always really telling about the leaders on the team, especially after an away loss. You know, we kind of gauged when Jafal was a part of the pregame presser that he was going to be starting, and he did. And, you know, I saw a lot of people really high on him on Twitter. I don't necessarily disagree, although I kind of was a little harsh on him just within our living room for that first goal. So I doubt we'll hear from him, but it will be interesting to see which players we do get a chance to hear from. As I'm rambling a bit as Joshua gets the Zoom set up.
Yeah, we're waiting for the press conference to start here, and I'm just overhearing some of the things you're talking about, Sam. But look, it could have been. I don't think it was as bad as everyone is talking about. I was down on the way DC United was playing earlier in the year, and nothing's changed for me. So maybe that's why I'm not as disappointed. But yeah.
So, I mean, isn't that a disappointment that we haven't improved, though?
Well, I just, I've been saying this since week one when DC United, got lucky essentially against some other teams, but that aren't very good. And Toronto are not very good. We beat this team 7-1 last year and then 3-1 again. So, yeah, and they're on the up and up. They got their coach in Bob Bradley, who will surely right the ship. He's a proven MLS coach and knows how to work this league. And there are some exciting prospects on that team, but it's still early season for them, so we should have been handling business here. And yeah, I think we scored our best goal in this game in the 10th minute that I talked about. DC United was pressing a little bit and looking to to attack, but then they get the goal actually after a great header from Russell Canals, and then it seemed to be slanted a little bit against them for the rest of the game. Toronto didn't outshoot them, at least from the latest stats that I saw, and it didn't look like they had too many better chances than DC United, but they put away the ones that they got and came out on top.
Yeah, I thought the Toronto's game management was really well too. Like, they really knew when to take the yellow, the professional yellow. They knew when to make that foul. I think they got a little lucky on a couple red cards. It feels like DC United should have been up at least once or twice. Which is obviously frustrating as a DC United fan, but you can't depend on those moments. You have to also be able to get the job done outside of those, and we just couldn't do it tonight, which is disappointing. But again, a road loss is not the end of the world, but would have liked to have seen something a little bit different.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the first man up to the chair. Should be Hernan Losada here shortly, but yeah, it is. It is kind of frustrating the way the game went. It is kind of frustrating the way the team's at right now. We talked about extensively Flores already this season. We talked about extensively about the lack of depth, as you see later in the 90th minute. DC United do a weird reshuffle, and Steve Birbaum ends up top as a striker with Alfaro coming on for Gressel, who had a so-so game, but you kind of want Gressel's service there in the 90th minute to Steve Birbaum as the striker. But Losada made the call and felt he did what he had to do. I was holding out, Sam. You had already sent the tweets, come commiserate with us in the 85th minute. There was about 10 minutes left, 11 minutes of game left to play, but it looks like you were right. DC United didn't prove you wrong there, and we probably still would have been, commiserating a little bit just off the way we played, especially in comparison to last year.
Yeah, I mean, I would have happily eaten my words at that one. Mostly I wanted to get the tweet out with enough time for people to comment if they weren't able to join us live to give us their opinions. And, I see that some people are. And, we're at that favorite part of my show where we're just kind of trying to stall until the press conference starts.
So Sam will eventually give into that and start a whole spiel, well thought out, speech almost.
Exactly.
And
give
then
me enough
Hernan
time.
will start talking immediately as soon as you get to your point.
Exactly. But yeah, so we will get into the gameplay and more specifics once the press conference is over and we have time to mull over what coach and some of the players have to say. But I just want to touch on some comments that we have been getting so far because they are pretty relevant to what we've been talking about. But yeah, essentially Gressel back to his pretty awful form, and that we're really seeing the loss of Areola and Paredes, and that's coming from Chris Webb here on the YouTube chat. But then we also have James Lambert and then John Lee, who is obviously not able to join us today, but basically saying that, during the off season, we didn't really make any moves to make this team better. It actually got actively worse, and that's what we're seeing on the field in these past several games. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, and again, we talked about it in our season preview and then, a couple of the games already this season. But yeah, DC United's hands was forced on those two big moves that I can't remember the name, but
Chris Webb.
Yeah, Chris Webb pointed out. I did have Chris in the mind. I just didn't want to guess and get it wrong. But thanks, Chris, for that. I think DC United were forced to sell them, right? And kind of probably not in their whole plan of when to sell them. The $7 million, you can't say no, especially, the way things work today. Paredes probably got word of that, and it's to the German league, so you can't say no to that. And then Areola is doing what feels like he has to do to get into the World Cup roster.
I don't know if anyone's blaming DC United for letting them go, but we didn't really then bring anyone in to replace. I mean, we brought in quote unquote replacements, and Brad Smith has actually been playing pretty well for DC United, I think, but it was a net negative.
Well, I'm just saying when those things happen, you're forced to make the overpay, or unless you are just like a stacked team with a quick trigger on DPs, which DC United has never been, right? And they probably won't be for at least in the foreseeable future. So when you're forced into these moves and you don't have a docket lined up for to go, you kind of just land in this area now where we are hoping Taxi can get here sooner, and that's obviously the replacement for an Areola level player. And then we overpaid for Brad Smith, and he's, like Sam said, he's been doing a fine job with the Paredes kind of filling in. And Paredes didn't play a ton of minutes though for DC United last year. He was on the field a lot, but he didn't play start to finish a lot in his career. So I don't know if those two things are big enough losses to justify what we're at now. I think what needed to happen was DC United really need to take a step forward, and what actually happened is they were forced to kind of take a couple steps back. And it's unfortunate, and looks like, reports out of Austria and everywhere that Taxi kind of forced his way out and over to DC United already. There's rumors that he was on a flight, I think Friday, so who knows? He could be in town right now getting his medical and ready to fill in that other hole that Chris talked about with Areola.
DC United with some pretty cryptic tweets, I think, leaning in, doing a little soft launch.
Yeah, I didn't see those specifically, but
there was a video of just feet getting out of a car door.
Oh, okay. Was it a red and silver car like the taxis here in DC, or no?
No, I think it was a silver car.
It's got to be Audi.
But when we're talking about DPs, again, I don't want to get too far into it, but there's an obvious name that does not come up as someone who's showing up for DC United right now, and that is Mr. Edison Flores.
Yeah, and it's just frustrating. And there was a point in today's game, and I really try not to be vocal when I'm negative, but I have a podcast, so I have to give it both sides. But there was a point in today's game where I looked up everyone who's worn the number 10 for DC United, and I think Flores is amongst the worst. There's not a lot. At the beginning, it starts with Echeverry, so it's a pretty high bar. You could argue whether Lucho was great for this team or not all day, but he was at least efficient sometimes. We have seen no efficiency basically from Flores, and he didn't have a terrible game today. He missed some chances, and the ball got stuck at his feet quite a lot. But when the other 10 from the other team is scoring the goals and picking your pocket too, it really kind of just like demoralized after I was done looking up whether Flores was the worst end. And he does have some competition. There's some misses there for DC United in history, but I pulled up the Vault Mob ratings for the team, and the midfield players for Toronto were just having a day. I mean, they have Bradley Osorio, Pozzello. They have that new winger that showed pretty well today. So it's kind of frustrating, and midfield has been a weakness for us all season, as we've had guys coming in and coming out. And I mentioned his goal, but it was so great to have Russell Knaus back, and I think Jafal did a decent job alongside him, but still not enough creativity and kind of just domination by DC United.
Yeah, I'm in a group chat, and someone said if I began to boo every time that Evan Flores touches the ball at home, would you guys hate me? And no one said no. And a lot of comments on Twitter too about he it just kind of dies at his feet. We're not seeing, and he had a really good international spell on the break right before the season started, so everyone was really expecting him to come back. I think it's been unfortunate he's had some injuries. You can't necessarily fault him for that. So I think people go into watching him with that negative mindset, and I just want to kind of be mindful of that and make sure that, we're not being too hard on him. But his play over these last 4 games, I don't think that we are. I think that he really just isn't showing up in the way that we need him to. And again, the play dies at his feet. He's not able to get the ball in. Pretty much right on cue, I think Hernan Losada is sitting down, and we're going to throw it over to the post-game press conference.
All right, let's go straight into questions. Steve, I'll ask you to unmute.
Hernan, thanks for your time. Overall, your thoughts after taking the early lead and showing a lot of promise. Where do you think things turned for your team?
I don't know. I don't have too many comments. I really need to analyze the game once again. My first thought was that we did a very good first half, that we were the better team with the better opportunities, that we forced a lot of turnovers, that our pressing was by moments excellent. So I was very pleased with the first half. And unfortunately, when the game was really under control and we had our momentum, and probably we were closer to the 0-2 than to the equalizer, a set piece moment, a corner kick, and unfortunately they scored a goal and we go to the halftime with a draw instead of a lead. The second half was different. I think we needed to be a lot more patient on the ball. The moments we could circulate the ball from side to side, and Julian and Brad got a lot of crossing moments. But well, in a transition moment, they scored the 2-1, and then was a little bit all of nothing. We push Beerbound as a 9. We end up playing with Griffin Yao, with Cudi Pietro, which I'm very glad for both players, because being this young, they brought a lot of energy to the team. And well, unfortunately, we need to go back without points. I think we didn't deserve to lose, and I don't know if Toronto deserved to take all the 3 points, but it is what it is, and now we have 2 weeks to move forward and to prepare the next year.
Did you get a good look at that boot to the forehead of Knaus and whether you thought it deserved more than a yellow card?
No idea. It was too far for me. What I saw is that was a great counter for us, and the game is stopped because of.
Thanks, Hernan. Jason, you want to go next?
Hernan, thanks for speaking with us. I just, in watching the game play out, it seemed like Toronto packed their central midfield. It seemed like they had 4 players there, and you had to go around with the wingbacks a lot. Was that by design, or was that more of a we kind of have to play around them because they've got that overload?
No, that's most of the time our style of play. I mean, they start the game with a back 3 with 3 real center backs, a little bit of a copy paste of our formation. But when you see that Pozuelo was the player who needed to give some support on our left side, the amount of balls that Brad Smith and Edison Flores got on the left side, and we couldn't take enough profit of those moments. Well, I think that's unlucky, and it's a pity. But yeah, we know the role of Pozuelo, a free role. Well, each team in this league has qualities, but to be honest with you, the goal from minute 1 was to press them, to force them to make turnovers, to play vertical, to go fully for the victory. After 30 seconds, Ola Kamara needs to score. And we're creating enough opportunities for at least go back to the sea with 1 point. So that's why I'm a little bit upset. And I'm very happy with the first half and less happy with the second half.
Maya?
Hola Hernán, solo quería preguntar, ¿la fecha FIFA viene en un momento oportuno para ustedes? ¿Y en qué cosas que se buscan mejorar ya con 2 semanas libres?
No sé si viene en un momento bueno o malo. El calendario es así, no tengo ningún problema. Edison, Flores y Estrada tienen que jugar partidos con sus selecciones y con el resto podemos trabajar. Así que no, hay tiempo para mejorar en todos los aspectos.
Hernan, do you see some changes coming or some opportunity now? It looks like Taxi is coming in. He just has to wait for the visa. But do you see your attack perhaps beginning to evolve as an important player arrives?
Of course, we all would be glad with the early come of one of our DPs. I don't know how long that will take, but the sooner the better, and he will be welcome to give us more opportunities and more choices on the offensive part.
Good, thanks.
That's it, Hernan. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that was DC United's head coach Hernan Losada right after this 2-1 loss at Toronto. I thought that was a really interesting press conference. He kind of came with very low energy, and at the very beginning, he almost seemed at a loss for answers. And I think he got there a little bit as the press conference went on, but I was pretty shocked by the answers he was giving.
It was a particularly frustrating game for him, and I think Losada really takes to heart the chances that the team creates underneath his system. Because if we take a step back, he came to this team that was playing terribly, right, and underperforming what they should be, even with a bad roster. And he came to this team and he got them to perform above expectations. And we saw some glimmers from players that we didn't expect to, right? He unlocked, he got Adrian Perez looking great, and we haven't really seen much of him this year, but stuff like that. And so I think that's what he really prides himself on, and I think it's great. I think when he says, I need, when he demands better players, it's because he wants the players to come in and fully realize the system and the chances it creates. If you look at Ola Kamara's game today, it wasn't spectacular, and Edison Flores is the same. They're the second and third highest expected goals out of all the players on the field today, and they didn't score, and wasn't really even close for either of them. And so he talked extensively about we created chances on the left side. We should have gone up to We shouldn't have given up the goal before half. And so, yeah, I think he has a little bit to be frustrated about because the system does create the chances, especially when the other team is adapting to you, like he said.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of didn't in the second half, though. Like, I agree that our first half looked really good, but you can't rely on the chances within the first 30 seconds to carry you throughout an away game. And I'm not saying that's necessarily exactly what he said, but he did recall that opportunity within the first 30 seconds and say, if we put that away, it's a different game. In addition to Russell's header, obviously that's true, right? Being up by 2 is better than being up by 1, but he didn't really have answers for where we fell within the second half. And like, you have to respect that he also needs time to watch the tape back and process and see where that breakdown came. But I mean, I wish he'd come in and said, like, in this position we need to do better, and that position we need to do better. Like the answer of, Toronto just kind of outplaying us and us not taking our chances, like that leaves a little to be desired for me.
I think it's kind of early in the season to start, especially as the transfer window is closing, to start saying that we're not good in certain positions. I think, yeah, we could have been better at the 9, and Flores could have been better as well, but it's early for, any coach to start throwing players underneath the bus like that, especially with a change maybe on the onset or maybe, maybe he has an ace up the sleeve that we all kind of know about, but maybe things will change quickly with that. So, yeah, I understand his frustration and your frustration as well, but yeah, maybe there's something to evolve, as Goff said.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there are obviously taxi coming in. There are rumors that Chris Durkin might be lurking on the horizon and maybe coming back in. So, maybe we say this all the time. Everyone within MLS says this all the time, that you don't need to really be good in the first part of the season. That's really the time to learn and bring all the players in and to mold into a team that, all right, looks like we're heading over to Russell. Is that Russell?
Russell.
We'll kick this straight off. We'll go to Steve Goff.
Hey, Russ, thanks for your time.
Hey, Steve.
What were your thoughts on the way the game unfolded after a very bright start for DC?
Yeah, it's very frustrating the way the game played out. I thought we had a great start, great mentality to start the game. We had some chances, gave up some chances, were able to survive going to halftime 1-1. We came out to win the second half and go away with 3 points here. So the fact that we come out with nothing is super disappointing.
And how did you feel getting in there? Was there any rust on your part? Seemed like you got off to a good start scoring the goal, but what was your personal feeling out there?
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to contribute to the team. Obviously, I scored the goal, but would have been much better. Would have rather had left here with some points rather than scoring, to be honest. Overall, was able to get a solid 90 minutes in, and hopefully it's something I can build on going into next weekend. We don't have a game, obviously, but build throughout the week, and then for the home game against at Audi Field against Atlanta.
And then last quick one, you took a boot to the forehead there. What did that feel like? And did you feel like more than a yellow card was deserved?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the replay yet, but it was definitely high. Definitely got me up top here. It's definitely a bump there. I think anytime a cleat goes up that high and you hit the guy, obviously I'm not someone who's going to fake it either too. He definitely got me. So, when I see the replay, obviously you guys saw the play. I'm thinking it can be definitely more than yellow. It's a dangerous play by him.
Thanks.
Thanks, Russ. We'll go to Jason Anderson now.
Hi, Russ. Thanks for speaking with us.
Yeah.
I know, watching these 3 games that you were still coming back from the injury, you've had a lot of time to sort of internalize how the group looks now with these new players. Getting in there, being a part of it for the first time, how much progress do you think the group has made from week 1 to this point?
Yeah, I think, it takes always a couple of games to get into the season. We're still finding our form, finding our relationships with new guys into the team. I think at times you can see what we want to do from in possession standpoint, and then out of possession, very high intense pressing. At times it's not clicking still. It breaks down in the final third. Sometimes defensively, we're a little bit unorganized still. But I think there's positives we can take from this game, even though it's a very disappointing result. Frustrating to leave with nothing here.
Great. Thanks, Ross.
Russ, you're good to go, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you guys.
A very diplomatic press conference answers from Russell Knauss there. Always a team player, right? You love hearing him, and I think this is very in character, saying that he'd rather get the 3 points than the goal. Answering some questions about that potential red card, but pretty much to be expected from DC United's Russell Knauss.
Yeah, and we're over here juggling the act, running the show by himself. But I would have loved to ask him about his partnership with Jafal. I know our friends on Twitter were having a mini freak out about how well he's been playing. But through the first 4 games, it's been quite the revolving door for DC United in the midfield. So it's great to have Russell back. What do we have? Skundrake, Nyman, Jafal now, and Canals. It seems like a crazy just for those 2 positions in DC United's lineup. But yeah, we'll see if the committee, the disciplinary committee, has something to say about Pozzuelo's challenge, so they can go in and enact change. Obviously, it would have helped DC United massively to get the call right during the play. I think that's dangerous as well. And Russell Canals wasn't claiming that it. As you said, he was very diplomatic in saying, I think that's a little bit more a yellow card instead of saying, it should have been a red card. But I think all of us watching would have pulled out the red for that one. But yeah, it's great to have Russell back. And we would have. It was a great goal, and I tweeted out that I thought it was the best goal for DC United this season so far. It's a great cross from Roberta. Canals does probably the best job of any of our strikers today at getting the space in the box. Save for one little clip that Matt Doyle found on Kamara, but it was great to see Russell out there again, and hopefully, this is the last time we're saying that. Hopefully, he's staying in there for a while now.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a beautiful header. I mean, it was a great run in. It was a beautiful header in. You almost, as a DC United fan, you don't expect us to go up at the very beginning of the game, so we both kind of paused here, like, did that find the back of the net? And it totally did. And it was really great. It never felt like it was going to be a 1-0 game. But I thought Russell just played very well. I thought he was obviously very happy to be back on the field. Lucky it's just a bump and not, anything worse. I think if his skin had split and he'd been gushing blood as head injuries typically do, I think that the ref probably would have taken that second look. And you love to see Birnbaum was in his ear chirping and making sure that his players were being protected. But I thought that was absurd.
Yeah, and Losada was kind of
also kind of
diplomatic about it. I think the camera cut to him and he was saying a lot more than he said to us just now. But that's kind of the job and being professional about it. And like I said, if the disciplinary committee takes a look at it, they might have something to say, or it might be too late. But while we're on red cards, it feels worth. There was another little shout. I mean, there were a couple other little shouts. Pozzuelo probably could have had a second yellow. We thought he did based on a couple of the calls. He probably could have had a second yellow, but I'll say there was another one. There was a little bit of a denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, which is silly because it happened in the midfield circle, and I think that's probably why that red card wasn't shown. But I think it was Kamara, right, who got the touch and was pretty much off to the races, but got a little hip check, and I don't even think it was a foul. I mean, if it was a foul, it would have had to have been a red, but there was another little shout I saw people chirping about on Twitter. So what did you think about that one? I don't have any idea what you're talking about, Sam.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about the Kudupitrio one where he was charging in and then gets like hip to hip, and then people were shouting a little bit for that. We actually did get the yellow for that one, but I didn't see the play you're talking about, Sam.
Don't remember when in the game it was, but yeah, I mean it was a rough game, and again, Toronto.
Also, I have no idea what you're talking about with Kamara and off to the races. I've never seen him win a foot race.
It might not have been Kamara, but it was someone in the midfield. Yeah.
That was more of a general comment on Kamara's speed and instead of your analysis. But what are you reading from the chat, Sam?
In the chat, both Mark and EM are both on Twitter or on, YouTube, saying that, there's no reason VAR shouldn't have taken a look at that Russell play.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I guess they didn't see anything. We'll see what the committee does. But
I don't know.
It's frustrating, and the committee can't do anything about the 20 minutes that DC United probably should have been up a man, and we're only chasing one goal to equalize. But bygones are bygones.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you can't rely on those moments. Obviously, it really helps going up a man. You see that all the time, but those are not the things you need to rely upon. And there was a whole lot of other things that went wrong during that game. So, I think we've covered that first goal pretty well. But if we want to move into the two that DC United conceded, the first one in the first half off a corner, and I was pretty hard on Jafal. I think his positioning was pretty poor on that one. I mean, he was in front of his man, and even if he had gotten a touch to that ball, it would have been an own goal. I thought he should have been more goal side of his man. He didn't really know what was happening behind him, but I think he played well for the rest of the game. I don't want people coming at me because there's a lot of Jafal love right now, rightfully so. He's been playing phenomenally for DC United, but I think that he could have done a lot better for that goal, but obviously there was a lot more that led up to it.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job for DC United, especially considering he's a super draft guy. This was like his first or second start in MLS. So props to him. And yeah, I don't know why he's marking anyone in the box, especially I think on the replay I saw that both Nahar and Birnbaum were marking the near post man who does eventually win the ball. So both of them lost, leaving Jafal kind of out in the open against... Yeah, it was Pozuelo with the first goal, right?
Yeah.
So the most dangerous player on the field, and we threw up our college kid to mark him on the corner. DC United have been pretty bad from set pieces overall, I think, this year. They don't seem to push up, really. We haven't seen... maybe we're just missing Donovan Pines. I don't know. I haven't seen any great, headers and stuff from the center backs, Birnbaum or Heinz Eich. Especially, I don't expect Andy Nahar to be, hopping up in there.
So you're talking about defensively, because I think everything you said could also be applied to offensively.
I was talking about offensively, but
okay.
Yeah, we have been terrible defensively, as you can see from the goal that we conceded from it today. But yeah, I don't think we've been pressing, and we keep trying these little routines. And as fun as it is to hear Dave say right off the training ground or whatever that he's been saying, that they haven't been really working, and I don't know. I feel like we could just have done better with getting the ball in the box today, especially against a Toronto defense that isn't profound in any way.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll let you. I'm going to talk about Russell for a minute, so I'll let you think about your comebacks. But I think he had a really good first half, but his second half, I mean, his crosses were all over the place, and he's such a hot and cold player for DC United, and I just thought, I mean, it wasn't even about not sending the ball into the box where it should have been in the box. It was just balls going way over and way out, and that's also pretty frustrating, especially considering what you were saying earlier about how Hernan really prides this team on the chances that they're able to create.
Yeah, I think I might have to rewatch this and look specifically at it, because I remember in the first 2 minutes was great for us, or the first 30 seconds was great for us, the 10th minute goal, but Toronto were really pushing up through their left hand side through Gressel because he was so high. And Hernan mentioned how many chances the left side created, so there might have been a focus there of hey, they're particularly going after Gressel because he's so high, so maybe they asked him to take a step back and cross him further away, and he clearly was not comfortable with the crosses that he was taking. They were often high and out of bounds, so 0 for 2 there.
Yeah. Generous take on that one.
What do you mean?
I don't know if it was I don't know.
Toronto were absolutely exposing the pressing of that.
You're right. I don't know that in the second half he was necessarily I think he had the ball in the space to move forward. I mean, maybe he was asked to take a step back, but I think he could have also chosen his moments to push forward in the way that he knows that he needs to in order to put those quality crosses in.
Sure, but again, I don't think it was a great game from Kamara, so he wasn't hitting crosses into anyone else. And I think the wingbacks are supposed to be secondary efforts in this system. You have to have the inside forwards pressing in and doing stuff in order to have those wingbacks want space. because if the inside wingers of Flores and Roberto, who I thought was pretty decent today, but maybe there was an injury or something that he couldn't keep going. But if they're not making dangerous runs inside or good on the ball like they should be, then the defenders aren't going to respect them, and they're going to fill the space and not allow Brad Smith and Julian Russell to really create. And they still did get some crosses in there, and some of them weren't as good as you would like. But I think the frustration, especially with Gressel, he should be not the first or second or third best player on this team that has a DP or two now maybe in the midst, and strikers that we bought for millions of dollars on the field at the same time. So
he also has a hefty salary that we bought down with special MLS rules.
He's a TAM player, so generally on our team that's a big deal. But Sporting Kansas City had like 12 TAM players the season before, so a couple seasons ago. So yeah, he's a big money for us, but that's part of the money that is given out now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I was not saying that it was all Gressel's fault in this game. But I did want to go back to something that you had touched on, is that they were attacking a lot on the left side, down the left side of the field, and that's what led to the second goal. They attacked down the left side, crossed it in, and I saw a lot of mixed reviews on Twitter for this one. It gets crossed in, and from my point of view, I really placed that blame on Smith on the other side. He was running pretty central in, and we just had a wide open person at the back post who was able to put that ball in. There was some blame on Twitter going towards Hamid in that one. I think that the momentum of coming across across his line in the way that cross came in, he was moving backwards already, and it looked like it kind of hit his chest as he was falling backwards into the goal. I think that he was, trying to line up for that shot, but the way that he had to quickly move across the goal line, physically, I don't know what else he could have done in that situation. So for me, it's very much on the defense for not picking up that mark. But Joshua, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think Bill could have been better there. And again, this is just like our typical. Bill Hamid is normally great for DC United, and especially so far this season, I think through the first two games, he might have been one of the best players in MLS.
And tonight, too, he had a lot of really big saves for us.
He was decent tonight. I think he made some small errors, and I think there is some technique that could have been better, a technique where he could have followed that cross across the goal and come to the far post, inside, not inside of the goal, and done better there. But yeah, I put most of the blame on Brad Smith because, Sam, you were watching the game with me. I was like, oh, this is good, because I saw the way that Osorio was making the run and the way Brad Smith was not running to track him. And then, of course, the ball is a great ball, gets around Smith, and Osorio's there to bury it. And lots of props to them, and just, again, a testament to the players that they had on the field, in the midfield, that were making runs like that DC United didn't really have.
Yeah, I agree. But we had a half hour to figure it out and to try to come back from it, and we just didn't really. And I want to take a moment to just talk about Griffin Yao, because he, to me, was the only consistent bright spot in those last 30 minutes. He was really balling out. He had the creativity. He was really pushing the envelope.
I think some people will learn to love Griffin Yao, and I'm sure some of you guys already do. And so, nothing against that. I think he's a fun player to throw on. He's great off the bench for DC United. I don't know if he has the technical and physical attributes right now to really make a difference, but he goes in there and he hustles and tries things, and it's a problem for defenders, and so he deserves all the credit for that. He's still young, so he can grow technically and physically, but as much as I want him to do well, he's not quite there yet. I don't think he's not going to come on and grab you a goal.
He almost did. Got a little nutmeg in the box there, and the shot left a little to be desired. Obviously, it was saved pretty easily, but he was putting himself in those positions and creating chances for DC United, or creating half chances. What?
That was kind of my point, is that he will hustle and try things, but he doesn't have the technical ability to finish them off and really make a difference off the bench. Well, to really score the goals off the bench that DC United needed in this game.
Yeah, we have a comment from Mark in the chat here saying Griffin was our best player during the first two matches of the year. Going back a little bit to we were talking about Bill Hamid. Greg at 21 Olsen said, interesting stat coming up on the ESPN Plus TSN broadcast that Hamid was leading MLS in saves going into today's game. And then he probably says more about DC United's defensive system. So, I think this is a system, and, we've heard this from Losada himself that, we're going to absorb the chances. We also need to put the chances away, though. And that goes back to what you were saying at the beginning of the broadcast, and what we had heard from Hernan Losada is that he looks more at the chances that we missed versus the opportunities that we gave away in games like this.
Yeah, I mean, any coach that doesn't prefer possession is going to have to soak up, hopefully, no, not hopefully, but just logically, if the other team has the ball a lot, they should be doing something with it and trying to get good shots. The job there is to limit the quality of those chances and try to lower that XG on those chances that they get through possession. But yeah, I think it came down to it, and I know we're all frustrated because we just lost, and even in our 2 wins to start the season, we didn't look too great. But it could have gone a completely different way today had DC United taken the advantage or taken the opportunities they got early in the game, and then been better on the set pieces and tried a little bit harder on that last goal.
So unless you have anything else to talk about during this game, I think we've gone over it pretty comprehensively. I wonder what your thoughts are just at the beginning of the season. And we've talked a lot about this through our, first 3 shows, but, now we're 4 games in. We've got 2 wins, 2 losses. We just gave Toronto their first win. So what do you think? But now we have an international break, right? Our next game isn't until April 1st, and that's at home against Atlanta. So what do you think, this first little stretch of MLS season has meant for DC United, and, what do you see moving forward?
Yeah, I think after the first game or the second game, I was like, please just don't try to read into this too much. And we're still probably in that area where teams are figuring out this game felt very early season to me. Where both teams, we had to sub a guy in the 70th minute because he either couldn't go or something like that. So it felt really early season for me, and I think it still kind of is. I think this window, DC United, we're always looking at it as a chance to maybe rest up and get players, raring to go. Now, especially with the transfer or the pending transfer of Taxi Fontas, I think things could change for DC United, but I think there's just too much of a lack of cohesion within the quality in the squad. And so I think Taxi will elevate this team some. He has the pedigree for it. But, the last guy that came here with the pedigree, we currently are hoping doesn't start, right? So those are always an unknown, and it's tough, and I could see it all working. Again, I believe in Losada's system. I think he's got the mind for it, and I think Lucy Rushton and the front office is working on making the team better. But I think they really just missed their chance this offseason, and they're going to be paying the price for it all season. There just isn't enough time and money in the DC United pockets to make enough difference on the season now.
Yeah, I'm glad we had that first half of today's game in before the international break. I thought it was probably our best half of the season so far. There were a lot of opportunities, especially at the beginning of that half, that again, we can't rely on the first 30 seconds, having 2 opportunities in the first 30 seconds or 1 opportunity. But, I think that it was really promising that we came out on the front foot away from home. And, we do have a lot to build off of. So definitely the team will go back and look at the tape, probably not just of this game, but of the first 4 games overall during this break, and really get into where did they fall short, defensively, where are, those secondary runs, or just things we can do better offensively to make sure that we're getting those opportunities and putting them in the back of the net. And hopefully coming up big against Atlanta, who we love beating at home.
Yeah, we'll see. As the offseason, we're all probably going to be focused on this last window of World Cup qualifiers, and I think our guy that we keep mentioning, Flores, will be out with his team. So maybe he regains a bit of form, and we have 2 guys raring to go behind the striker here very soon. Yeah,
definitely. Is there anything else you wanted to add about this game or moving forward?
I think I'm ready for the man of the match.
Oh, shoot. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we normally do it every show, Sam. So I'll go first. Yeah, this one is kind of easy, and I'm kind of mad at myself because I keep going with the goal scorer, but really I don't think anyone else stood out. That Jafal had honorable mention, I guess, but he also let in the goal, or lost his man marking on that corner. So I think it just has to be Russell Knaus, who we dearly missed in the midfield, and he comes up on the score sheet, which is a rare occurrence, but it was a great goal, and I wish our forwards were making runs like that and being as clinical as he was there. So yeah, props to Russell Knaus. He's back, getting yellow cards like he used to, and shutting stuff down in the midfield, and also contributing on the scoreboard. So it's got to be my man of the match.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on that one. Not even for the goal, but just I thought he was one of the better players on the field tonight. He was on for all 90 minutes. I thought he did a lot of really important work in that midfield. He loves scoring in his first goal or first game of the season, so that is definitely contributing to it. But I just thought he had one of the stronger performances. I thought most of DC United's team was pretty lackluster. I don't know if anyone had a outstandingly bad game, but no one just really stepped up, and I think that was the difference in today's game. Unfortunate, but that's where we are.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? Now I'll say anything else to add before we look across the DMV.
Yeah, all three teams in play this week or today.
Today, yeah, and it was a nice little lineup of if you're watching live with us, Loudon played right before, DC United played. And then at about an hour, Spirit are kicking off with the Challenge Cup. So Loudon did get that win. They got a 3-0 win over RB2, which you'd love to see. Unfortunately, DC United could not come up with the win today. But as I mentioned, Spirit open up at Orlando Pride today at 7 p.m. So hopefully they start their season well, reigning champs, Spirit. Excited to see that game too.
Yeah, and of that Loudon game, Marty Smith and Jacob Green, a recent draft pick and a recent homegrown scoring. So that's always great to see, especially since it seems like every game now DC United is loaning people up and down. So maybe they could continue the goal scoring with DC United soon. We'll see. And yeah, we're super excited for the Spirit now that they have the new ownership and they get to defend the title. They're playing at Audi a bunch this year. They're also out there and Loudon if you're out that way. So yeah, make sure you check them out. This game is away, just like all the games have been. So we won't be able to see any of you guys there, but for that next home game, we'll definitely have to be at.
Definitely. All right, feels like we're wrapping up. Anything else? Looking forward to this World Cup qualifying. Hopefully we come back on April 2nd and we'll be hyped because the USMNT have qualified for the World Cup.
Ooh, it's been a dark show. We don't need to talk about that too much. Hopefully we also have a new DP raring to go.
Yes.
So that'd be great.
Love it. All the positivity heading into the next DC United home game. All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for joining us live, and to those of us who are listening on your favorite podcatcher. We really appreciate all the support. Keep letting us know your thoughts on Twitter. We love interacting and hearing from you all. We'll keep trying to bring you quality content. But that's it for us today. Joshua Morgan and Sam Kasner here on Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken.